Right now, I'm like in this relationship where I've never done any of the things that I'm doing right now. Like taking it very slow. Like I've never dated anybody really.
So you're pacing yourself now.
Yes. I literally, that's it. I smile at you. We're having sex, and that's it. We're hanging out. That's how it was.
Wait, during that decade?
Yes.
Okay. These are sometimes the extremes that we may go to, again, because we think we're coping, but in actuality, we're just doing something to like get a sense of release, only to then have to be facing the same issue, however long that may come again. To me, again, that's why it's so important. Like, you need at least one person that you can actually be like raw and honest and real with. Because you need somebody that you trust to be able to tell you like, hey, I don't like when you're doing this, or I think some of these decisions you're making, you're putting yourself in risky situations, and I don't like that for you. I want to go back for a moment because I like to also think a lot about when I'm doing certain couples work and family work is talking about expectations. So whether it's parents on their child or it's just couples trying to navigate it with each other. There's a lot of like inherent things that like we don't talk about and yet we expect of each other. And I find that quite funny because it's very difficult to get something that you never tell the person that you want.
Yes.
You know, or maybe deliver it in the manner that you would prefer it. Right. Have you ever had a challenge with that when it came to either the ex relationship or with your current partner at all?
I go through phases with that and just people in general where I feel like maybe I might be hyper aware about a situation, whereas like if someone's not ready to like even approach that topic, then me bringing it up like makes it go crazy. So yeah. I've kind of tried to like not walk on eggshells around people anymore, but also like be able to be like, well, I sense this, but I want to, if you want to talk about this, I want to be able to be there and talk about it. But like, I feel like the more we ignore it, the more it's not going to be talked about. And like, I allow people to, I don't know.
Like
right now, I'm like in this relationship where I've never done any of the things that I'm doing right now. Like taking it very slow, like, I've never dated anybody really.
So you're pacing yourself now.
Yes. I literally, that's it. I smile at you. We're having sex, and that's it. We're hanging out. That's how it was.
Wait, during that decade?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just like, that's it. I smile. We're done. Like, come on. Like, I never dug deep with people.
So now we're pulling back the layers and really experimenting and exploring.
Okay. Now whereas I feel like he just thinks I'm trying to be coy and whatnot. Whereas I'm like, no, I really had an addiction. I've lost jobs. Like, it was a struggle. Like, I literally lost myself in 2019 because of, you know, might as well be vulnerable. I had a video come up from one of those experiences that I didn't realize was being filmed. So then I had someone else come up and say, hey, I saw this video. I didn't know you did this.
So privacy was being violated.
Exactly. And I'm like, I don't even know who that was anymore. You know, like I can't even go back to resolve it. So like, how do I navigate this now? Because like now in my head, that's it. I'm destroyed. The internet is forever. Like, like what if my family comes across it? Like
Absolutely.
I lost myself. I went to the mountains for a bit. I went to New Orleans and then I went to the mountains.
That's actually a very interesting point that I kind of pay attention to, but I think in full transparency, the only context I've ever seen people discuss it in is in like sex work, or you could talk about like revenge porn, but I usually see it in sex work in terms of you have a period of time where you're engaging in acts, and then obviously you grow, you mature, you turn into whoever you turn into.
Yeah.
And then maybe you feel some type of way about what you did when you were younger, but then it's hard for other people around you to accept that you have grown and you've changed into this person you are now.
Yeah.
That's the only context I have seen it in, but in your case, it was completely like somebody took advantage of you.
Yeah, like I thought he was taking a picture on his phone of something, and then it turned out that there was 3 cameras in places that I didn't see, and it was a professionally done video.
Oh wow!
Whereas like this is not what you said, like this, and it was like.
So you legit got like blindsided.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
How did you even get those angles? Like I didn't even see a camera in any of those places. Like.
So you were probably dealing with a professional.
Yeah,
or somebody who at least had experience.
Yeah, there was like 3 videos because it was like 3 different occasions, like over like 2 years, where I'm just like,
Okay.
That is horrible. You know, you get them deleted, and then you're like, well, do I go down the legal route and try to get it taken down and maybe get money out of it or whatever? Or do you like let it go and be like, okay, well, I have to deal with that either way. Not the video, because it's already done. Like, believe me, it took me a long time to get there. Like, I would just sit there and cry, and I'm like, I didn't even want to have sex.
No,
like,
I could imagine just being. I could totally
Horrible.
imagine being in that situation. Like, again,
I'm like, if
talking
I
about
wanted
consent.
kids, like if that comes out, like you know.
Yeah. You
I
see those
don't,
things
but,
happen.
like-
no, but that's definitely, regardless. The point is,
If I wanted to be a politician, now there's a video, you know.
yeah.
You know?
And in your case, something that you didn't want to happen happened against your will, and that's never acceptable.
yeah,
Point blank period, because that's you didn't have the opportunity to even give your consent,
yeah.
right?
There was no paperwork, there was
or if you
nothing.
did consent to something, it wasn't what it was
It was a
presented
picture.
as.
It was supposed to be a picture.
Right. No, and I think that
And
that's
I'm like, okay, digital. I was trying to be like okay with the times. You know, people want digital stuffs.
but
I
there's
didn't
limits though,
realize.
right? And you need people to be a little more in depth and detail about what they're doing.
25, 26. I know now.
Speaking of that, I think that's a good opportunity to ask you a question, especially because you're talking about essentially that decade was your 20s that you're referring to.
Yeah, I think around 24 or 25 to about 28 is when it was really crazy, and then I moved out here, and
It slowly starting to calm down a little bit.
I started to calm down, but really kind of not. But yes and no. It was a different kind of calm
A
down.
little bit of back and forth, somewhat. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Stay with that thought for a second.
Where I would be abstinent and then not.
Okay. But I want to ask you a question on that idea, because I think that this is an important point that you can give us insight. So imagine, let's go back to 24 or 25-year-old Jasmine, like maybe it's 23, right before everything had kind of gone down the way it did. Her or any other young lady that might be in that position in life, based on what you know now, right? What's something that you might offer to her or your former self to try to gain some insight, so maybe they can avoid some of the challenges that you've had to deal with?
I mean, I wouldn't be who I am right now if I didn't go through any of those things. But
True.
I would say that if you don't challenge yourself and get deep with yourself real quick and like forget about everybody else around you and just really like, if you don't challenge yourself, it doesn't matter what story I tell you. If you're not ready to like go deep with yourself, there's nothing anyone can say.
True.
So I would suggest finding out why it is, quicker than I did. Why it is that I'm even fucking doing this.
Right.
Like, why am I expelling this energy to these people that benefit them in a second, where like everybody feels elated, but like.
What about you?
And I didn't even think about that until way later, where I was just like, still like it was actually a drug for me, where it was just like.
Like the dopamine hit?
Exactly. Where I feel like my third eye was calcified and I wasn't seeing anything, whereas like I was feeling everybody's energy, but I wasn't allowing myself to like think about anything, or I was operating my solar plex.
Okay.
But I would say sometimes you do have to just go down the road either way.
No, true.
But
True.
I feel like the more vulnerable you can be with yourself, the better it is, because I wasn't allowing myself to be vulnerable in those few years when that started.
Yeah.
Because it's, you can always trace anything back to childhood. So it's like, as we learn how to pivot in childhood, like that's, I feel like what I didn't want to be seen, but I wanted to be seen. And that's like literally what the video showed, was like, you didn't want to be seen, but you were seen by all these people.
Right.
And you wanted to be seen, but you you weren't vulnerable with yourself.
Right.
You're like, why are you not wanting to be seen? Because of childhood trauma. You didn't, it was better to be quiet and do your things than like possibly getting in trouble and then getting taken away from the family,
That goes back to that old adage, like, be seen and not heard.
Exactly. I was really good at that, except, sometimes my smile is louder than like people's voices. Like,
No, but that's and I really appreciate you sharing that. That's a very valid point, though. Like, there absolutely are certain experiences that we're gonna have, and listen, from a therapist perspective, I'm never gonna say like or try to diminish like what people go through, right? What I try to do, especially like in talking about it here, is I think a lot about outcomes, right? So when I think about the things that we go through, I'm always trying to understand, are there maybe some things that could possibly have been avoided within our control? So not talking about childhood stuff, because we have zero control there.
Nope.
So whatever you deal with is like, hopefully you get some help that you can deal with, or when you're of age, you decide to face it, right? Which we know doesn't always happen. But to your point, when you're talking to that 20-year-old, 23-year-old version of you, so maybe you have a little bit of access, you have a little bit of autonomy of self.
Look in the mirror.
Right. Like
I
face some of those things.
That's exactly what I would say. Just look at yourself in the mirror. Because I didn't look at myself in the mirror for almost a decade. Like, even getting ready, I just put coconut oil in my hair and go. Like, I don't put makeup on, I don't do anything. Like, so I didn't look at myself for a very long time. And I think because I didn't allow myself to even look at myself in the mirror or take selfies or do any of it. Not that I think that taking selfies all the time is healthy either.
Sure.
But
no extremes of any kind.
No
we're not trying to promote.
But like, maybe taking a picture, a selfie, in my deepest, darkest point would have allowed me to look at myself. Or looking in the mirror would have allowed me to be like, okay, what are you really doing? Because I did that one time when I was 11 or 12 years old. And I think it was right before my dad had left. And I was like, what are you feeling? What is it that you're, going through? And like, I had started cutting myself after they left. And I was like, that's when I really started doing mirror work. And I didn't realize what I was doing because I'm like 12 to 14. And I would just stare at myself in the mirror and like kind of just like, I don't know, get deep with myself. But then somewhere along the line, I just forgot that I used to do that. And
so that to me sounds almost like the other things you were talking about, maybe the smoking or the sexual encounters that you had, ways of trying to cope somewhat, but we know clinically that it actually doesn't help us address things. It's just great distractions to avoid whatever it is that we don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think number one, it takes a lot of bravery to even be able to verbalize that. Yeah. So I certainly appreciate and honor everything that you're bringing up there, because I can just imagine, because I've had these experiences clinically with folks when they don't have those outlets. Like, these are sometimes the extremes that we may go to, again, because we think we're coping, but in actuality, we're just doing something to like get a sense of release, only to then have to be facing the same issue however long that may come again, right? That's what I'm kind of hearing you narrating your story. And at the same time, going back to the parenting aspect, to me, again, that's why it's so important. Like, you need at least one person that you can actually be like raw and honest and real with, because you need somebody that you trust to be able to tell you like, hey, I don't like when you're doing this, or I think some of these decisions you're making, you're putting yourself in risky situations, and I don't like that for you,
Yeah.
But when we don't have that, like, again, so then who do you go to? You just like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go live, I'm gonna go do it, and let's just see what happens.
Yep, I was definitely, because there was a lot of those years that I didn't even talk to my mom, like from like 20, not on purpose, like we didn't have like a falling out, but
right.
We were just
time kind of passed.
Yeah, she was in Jersey, I was like over here,